Payne Haas, 81. Just start with him every year. It's basically the call, isn't it? Yeah, last year people got a little bit unlucky. Obviously started well and picked up the injury in round 3, and it didn't work out perfectly well. But outside of that, Payne Haas every year starts incredibly well. I personally went with Isaiah Yeo, and we lose out, but I think it's going to end up at 13 points. Not the end of the world. I don't know how many people actually captained Payne Haas, so if you captained Cleary, then I've caught up a little bit with the captaincy, so it's not the end of the world. And the reason that we do pick Yeo instead of Haas is obviously the injury worries and the consistency. There are games out there where he just lobs out a 50 because he does play games in the 50 odd minutes, and then you'll have games like this where he absolutely dominates. And to be honest, I think he looked almost better than ever, which is the scary part for me as a non-fantasy owner. But if you did pick him up, congratulations on that one. 49 minutes for 81 points, and it was 56 or whatever it was in that first 29-minute stint, which was incredible. What I will have one qualm about was that pass to him to get that try assist. It was like a full meter forward. He passed it a meter before the line. He caught it on the line, and it was a short ball. They definitely didn't think that he was going to get the ball once he went past the straight there, and then just a terrific offload. If I'm Corey Pags in this situation, I'm passing it to him one-on-one, sort of 8-7 meters out from the line all the time. There's a very, very high likelihood you're going to get the pass back, and that's exactly what happened here. If it's a bit of a scattered one, just give it a Payne. And he hardly scores tries too, so he's probably going to get one this year. But for him, again, just no negatives outside of the one penalty in the end. So 22 tackles for no misses, and that's what slowed him down from hitting it the ton. Was just the tackle numbers, because he had the offloads at 4, he had the try assist, and he had the turnover tackle in like the first tackle of the game too with Lindsay Collins. So that was pretty tough viewing for myself, as much as he's enjoyable. But he had the sideways runs. He was just running on angles as well, and when he runs on angles, he's palming off blokes for fun and knocking guys over, which is incredible. So congrats to Haas owners. I'm a Watson owner, and thank goodness that second half happened, because 25 in the first, no run meters. I was like, oh goodness, this is going to get messy. This could get messy, and if he's not going to be running at all, then it's going to be tough. But they also had no ball, and they were just trying to get out of their own end, and they were getting absolutely dominated. And it's not often that your number 9 can get good running at a dummy half in that situation. So that was the frustrating thing in the first half. Obviously, with Victor Radley going down with the head knock, that automatically meant that Watson was going to play 80 minutes. Thought he was going to anyway in this clash, but that made it a certainty. Apparently, Nat Butcher won't even be back next week, and Victor Radley's also going to be out next week as well. So I think you can line up Watson for at least a couple of 80-minute games, which is awesome if you did take him on. But in this team, this really poor team right now in the Roosters, how exciting and how perfect is it for your side? 65s are gonna tell me it's pretty nice, that's for sure. 16 points above his price point, and Payne Haas a very similar situation for him, about 18 points above where he's priced. So congrats to those two and owners of those guys. You had a really, really good game, and with Watson, it was just the one missed tackle from him for 49 made. 3 tackle breaks in the end with an offload, a turnover tackle, and 46 run meters. So we know that when he plays high minutes, he gets close to that 50 tackles. And if you're getting 50 or close to it in base, to add in the odd meters gain number, and when he runs the ball a little bit, he can scurry, he can get the offload, he can get some tackle breaks, and things can work out well for him. So a 65 for Watson. If you own now, you're definitely holding for a little while, just to see how things work out minutes-wise. And by that point, if he happens to get lower minutes, he's probably in the mid-700s and done his job. Obviously, the goal is that we want him to be a season-long keeper. We do have to we do have to think about the minutes at some point. But to be honest, they got Zach Docker-Clay with special exemption last night. So is there actually going to be a 9 on the bench longer term? People were worried about having him at all last night. He could just be a guy that you hold for at least half the season. So that's the goal. That's the hope, that I can just slot him in at mid or at hooker, and he can do a great job for a long part of the season. Reynolds at 65, Pat Carrigan at 63, Ricky at 62. The three Broncos boys that had absolute blinders. And shout out to Carrigan, 160 odd meters in the first half, finished at 242 with a couple of offloads there, the turnover tackle, and only needed to make 21 tackles. And he's if he's going to play 67 minutes in the front row, then he's going to get some good numbers, that's for sure. Obviously picked up the try assist as well. And at 770, you would be picking Haas instead of Yo pretty much every time, in my opinion. Reynolds, 65 for him. 7 goals, 2 try assists, had an absolute banger of a game. And we know that he's great when he's on the park. He's a 50-plus scorer when that is the case. He's just not on there long enough. And if you want to take that punt, you know that it's probably a guy you have to start with rather than buying in, because it's usually a 2 trade number within a month or so. So that's the thing with Reynolds there. Jordan Ricky, I was very impressed with. One-on-one tackles was his game in this one. Anytime the Roosters had something, he was able to nullify it, and he was up against Angus Crichton plenty and was able to tackle him really well. And he had Nwangani Tawaze was really good on that side as well. So I think Jordan had a great game, picked up a line break as well, and did some awesome work. Not one you need to chase, just more for the fact that he does seem to sit around this sort of 550 to 600k mark with up and down games. Rob Toya, 61 for Rob. He came into this game and first touch was in like the 6th or 7th minute whenever they got that try, and big, I should say, right foot step was absolutely awesome. And congrats to him for having such an awesome game. And this is the defensive numbers, 20 and a miss or 20 and no misses that we saw in that first trial game, and got us all really excited. And hopefully you have played him, which would be good, or you can get his score. There's a bit of chat around looping and different things like that. Personally, in my opinion, if you were looking at guys like Stafford Toa, I personally wasn't keen on someone like Jackson Purdue to start. I just don't think that they can have that many really good games, the Cowboys, with the draw that they have. And if you were interested in Stafford Toa, he's likely to come back into this side next week or the week after. And if you wanted to loop with Stafford, that works completely fine. But Toya, I think from here on in, you're playing him every single week, that's for sure, with 2 try assists, the line break himself, and obviously good run meters off that line break. And Trent Robinson came out after the game and said that he should have double the amount of runs that he did have, because he was absolutely electric. And I wanted to shout out both him and Nwangani Tawaze. I think they were their 2 most strike weapons for the entirety of the game, along with obviously Angus Crichton. But when you look at the rest of the side, it kind of makes sense. There's not too many other massive weapons outside of Tedesco in that team right now. Tupou's going to do his job, but he's not going to blow open the game. Dom Young, if you give him early ball, sweet, with space, but they're not guys that are going to be able to open up the game off their own bat. And I thought these 2 strike centers, giving them early ball was a win for them. So I can't see them getting dropped anytime soon. It's going to be hard to get someone like Billy Smith in, but I think at this point, they're the 2 best players on the park, and they deserve all the spoils. And a 61 points for Rob was absolutely incredible. All right, the left center and wing pairing of Shibasaki and Jesse Arthurs. It was a really nice game for those 2, that's for sure, with 2 assists for Arthurs, 3 line breaks with a try. Shibasaki had the try assist and the try, and he was very impressive, Shiba, in this one. It's great to see more of a journeyman of the game come in. Yes, 300k. There was cheaper guys, obviously, in Purdue, Toa. These types of guys, you could go for a more expensive center. But if you spend up the extra 50k, and shout out to Chris and a few guys I know that did jump on and finally trusted their gut with those kind of ones with 300k and a 54-point effort. And I think he's playing well enough to keep his spot for sure on that left edge. And you'll see Staggs come back into Mariner's spot over on the right, who is a great try scorer in his own right. But Shiba did everything correct in this one. 12 tackles for no misses as well, with the offload for that try for Jesse Arthurs. Picked up an awesome try himself with that line break from Arthurs down the left-hand side. So if he jumped on Shiba, awesome. If he didn't, he's going to be like 330k, 320 odd K from following this game. And it will be hard to select him, in my opinion, picking up at early 300k center if you haven't picked him up in round 1. So if you didn't grab Rob Toya, grab him for sure. Shiba, it's an awkward price to grab a center, which could obviously work out, given this Broncos team is really strong, picking up 50 points. Same with Jesse Arthurs. He had to have 3 line breaks, 2 assists, and a try to get him to 53. So it's a really, really good game, obviously, but not one that I think he can replicate on a regular basis. And the Broncos aren't going to hit 50 on people on a regular basis as well. So that's Arthur's. Leave it at that for him. He's more expensive than Shibber as well, but has that duel. So if you did start with him, well done for sure. Benny Hunt, 48 for him. Just a really nice game, and cool to see him get a try on the wing as well. And shout out to Shibber owners. I did play him in Supercoach, so I was happy enough with that effort. Every time he went over, I was getting a little bit excited because my Supercoach team start to the year has just been okay. So that was my first really good score, and I was happy with that. And I did take out Watson of my Supercoach team just before the game as well. I was like, I don't want to go all in on all of them, and I think that he's got probably a little bit more value in fantasy than in SC. Walshy, 47, he had that awesome line break. I feel like he kind of butchered that, but well done to Tedesco in that one for just some terrific defense. I think we just have to credit him on that one for making Walsh change his mind. But a line break and a try for Walshy. Good run meters at 220. Obviously, a couple of errors, 1 missed tackle and a penalty. All the negatives do seem to still be in his game, but Walsh could go nuts this year. If this is a squad that they're rolling out and the quality that they're going to deliver on a week-to-week basis, I think Walsh should be a 55-point scorer this year and increase a little bit. There'll be times where if he gets goal kicking and stuff, then he'll have an absolute field day for sure. But usually when Reynolds is out, they don't play as well. But up the Broncos. Congrats to fans of their side. Jack Goz, 45 for him with a try and a line break. 13 tackles, no misses, 100 run meters there. And he played the full 80 and he wasn't going off. So if you did end up jumping on Goz, congratulations, because Pete Kura on that bench, you would have thought had to have been getting some minutes. But after that lovely effort from Pete Kura, he's even going to make the side next week. And I can't believe that. A -9 for Brendan Pete Kura. Absolutely hilarious on that one. He picked up, 2 penalties and the sin bin in his 1 second on the park, basically, with 9 run meters. So congrats to Pete Kura on that one. He's going to be super cheap auto very, very soon. But Goz, that's a tough one now. Is Pete Kura actually going to get minutes? Can you buy Goz after this 45-point effort? There will be games where tackle numbers are higher, but good to see he can be in and around a try, which is always ideal. If he gets 100 run meters and to mid 20s to 30 tackles, then at 280k or whatever it's going to be after this one. And remember, the price rises usually aren't as crazy in the first few weeks, although a lot of the relevant scoring players will have a really, really good jump in price this week because the scoring is a little bit higher for a lot of guys, which is very cool. So Jack Goz, is he the buy next week? That's going to be the big question that we go through. And in buy, hold, sell, we're going to be chatting through him. That's for sure. We'll see how the landscape of cheapies comes out and we'll make our decision on Goz. But we definitely thought that he was going to play 55 or 60 minutes and not be super worth it. And in this case, if he didn't score a try, he'd obviously be around that 30-odd mark, which is what we expect from him in high minutes. So if it is lower, then not so good. But if it is 80 minutes, he's still going to make plenty of cash if he's playing that amount of time. What about Cobbo? He was I think he was on -1 or something at halftime and ended up with 3 tries and a 44. So good return on that one, but he still had 2 errors and 4 missed tackles on the wing. Wasn't super ideal for him. Sandon Smith, how good is he? Everyone complaining about him at halftime. This is the standard we know. 9 points at halftime into a 44 with an awesome try saver as well. Ran for 100 meters, so I thought that was really, really telling that if he can get run meters like that, there are going to be the odd offload and tackle breaks in there, and obviously picked up a nice try for good line run as well, and a nice goal from the sideline at the back end. 17 tackles, 4 misses, 9 in net tackles, not so bad if he's getting 100 meters. There's 19 points, and then whatever he gets from that with goals and the like, and they will come up against some lesser sides for sure. But really solid effort from Smith. I didn't play him personally, but I'll take the price rises and get things rolling with him with a 44 is absolutely awesome. Angus Crichton, 43. At the beginning of the game, he looked like he was going to get $1 million. And then, obviously, it's never going to be awesome in this type of game for him. Picked up the 3 offloads early, but 2 errors, 4 missed tackles with 28 tackles only is pretty low. Obviously, in a game playing 80, when the other team had the ball plenty, you saw Watson in the middle dominate with tackles. You saw Wong on the other side get 41 tackles in 67 minutes. So that was the number that needed to improve. And he is a guy that's going to be a 30-odd player in tackles anyway. But if you started with a 43, you are hoping that the Roosters get better. But I thought he looked really damaging. So take that as you wish. Nafai White played 36 minutes early for 34 points and then ended up with obviously 48 minutes in the end, coming back for that 12-minute stint at the end, which is a little bit frustrating for owners. But he did pick up 9 points in that time and sits with a pretty high PPM near 0.9. So that was ideal for White. At 415k, he makes you a good amount of profit at that price point, a bit over 10 points of value. If he can continue that. And I do think over the next few weeks, at least, he should be a 45 to 50 guy in terms of minutes. And when he runs the footy, he's able to get the tackle breaks. And he picked up 1 offload, which was good. But just nice to see him pick up 34 tackles for 1 miss. So if you are a Nafahu White owner, I did pick him in Supercoach. He actually scored less in Supercoach, which is frustrating, and started him. But if you started with him in Fantasy, I think you're pretty happy with that score for a guy at 415k. That's what I'm hoping with someone like David Wiley tonight. Mariner 42 on his side. What about Celeste Fogarty? 41 in 52 minutes. Congrats to him in his first match there of the season. Really good effort. And then Wong 38 ended up having to play big minutes, and then he was kind of hurt / tired at the end, so they popped him off there with 13 minutes to go. And I think that's pretty close to when Nafahu White came back on. He started pretty average, 19 in 40 minutes, and then picked it up, getting 19 in that next 27 with 41 tackles, and hardly ran the footy and had 1 turnover tackle as well. So it worked out fairly well for him, and I think he'll get some good minutes next week as well. If he did jump on, there's a little bit of luck on that with Radley going down, Wong moving to the edge and playing some big minutes. But yeah, hardly running the footy as well, but they did also hardly have the ball, 50 to 14, right? We had Dom Young, 35 for him. With the 2 tries, pretty gross. I don't think you can pick him, and I would be selling personally with the quality of this team that you are throwing out, the Roosters, sadly. Nwangani Tawaze had 35 in about 45 minutes, so he was crushing it. And as I said, very much a weapon in this side. 2 offloads for him, 119 run meters, 6 tackle breaks, 10 tackles for 2 misses. Really, really solid outing. And if the attacking stats do come, I can see him hitting some 50s, and he's a really interesting target if you didn't buy him. I think that he definitely has some value. We just wanted to see it in action against a pretty good team, and we got it. And I think he really stood out, and he's going to improve each and every game, in my opinion. Just with him coming from rugby, there's always going to be lots of improvement to come from someone like that. So I was happy with him. If you own, happy days. If you don't own, I think it's a 50-50 if you do look to buy him or not, in that tough wing fullback position, because I think he'll have some good games in amongst some tough ones for sure. I do think there'll be less games with less points as they are struggling to begin. All right, my Hetherington and Pakes boys, PPM still rock solid for me. Exactly what I kind of thought. In the minutes, I couldn't see him getting to 50, Hetherington, especially with Carrigan and these types of guys playing big minutes. 33 for him. Did pick up a line break as well. And some good run meters, obviously, but 33 for him at that price point, not what you wanted, and was what I expected. Corey Pags, 33, picked up a line break try in that one as well, and obviously they didn't have plenty of ball, so tackles were going to be a little bit low, but he does miss tackles, and he looked like he did help them though, for sure. As a 9, I think he did a great job overall, but fantasy-wise, he's going to be fine. Danny Levi, a few people have said. Danny Levi of this year, that's for sure. And then Young Collins with only 46 minutes as well, but he was busted. What about the cuts that he was getting in this game? Tedesco with 28. Tough one for him. It's going to be a tough one when your team gets absolutely pumped unless you happen to score one of those tries, and he didn't. So Teddy, if you're an owner of him, be worried for sure. And then you've got Steep there with 28 in his 37 minutes. It was a really good setup for him. I think he was on 30 really early, and then I think he picked up another error or a missed tackle, and then not long was off the field. But for him, I do think there's some minutes available. But 37 for him when you had other guys like Fogarty getting in the 50s. I thought that was pretty interesting for sure. Docker Clay getting the Watson try assist for Sandon Smith. That was annoying. I was like, he's been there the whole game, and then Docker Clay gets in and gets an assist. But good to see him get that assist. Harry Grant owners last year. And that's going to be an interesting one now. With Watson getting 65, how is Grant going to counter? And remember, it is only 1 week, guys, so it's hard you do have to react, but how hard do you have to react, and should you react to certain scores and certain players? I think you would need to be looking at role and quality of output. Can they deliver the types of stats that you think are going to be consistent throughout the year, or do they look like a really good player and they're going to keep their spot? Do those kind of moves and stuff that they can have out in the game, like Nwanga, can that be replicated? And those kind of questions, I think, are yes for him and need to be answered for certain guys in your teams. Victor Radley with a 6 in 13 minutes. Hey, Mitchy boy, he's going to get cheap. He's going to get very cheap with a couple of games off. So, yeah, thanks for that, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.